Hey guys, and welcome to week 6. You guys did such a nice job with the walk cycles and the half rig and getting your poses that I kind of wanted to take another look at the walk cycle and do a full body walk. And then I want to let you kind of have fun and explore what keyframes can do to do a full body character walk. So when we look at Moom, remember I talked about forward, FK versus IK, I really want to just hit that home. And it's all about parent-child relationships and who controls whom. So remember, for our foot here, I'm going to actually move the foot to move the knee. But for our arm and forward kinematics, I'm going to rotate, let's grab the right one here, rotate the whole arm rotate the whole arm to get the elbow to move. Now again, the foot pad uses move, the shoulders, elbows, wrists use rotate. Now you can break all these things and bend them in the wrong directions, so you need to be cautious with your movements. But getting used to what a chain is and what a parent-child relationship is. You don't necessarily need to do this, but if we look, this says do not touch. I did not write that. That's what the rigger did. But we have a mesh in here. So Moom Final, this mesh, I'm going to see if I can show you. It's going to get a little creepy. It looks like I deleted the rig too, but maybe not. So I think the joints, here we go. There we go. So for you to see, and you don't need to do this, you can just look here, but these are the joints that are, I'll make them so you can see. These are the joints that make up Moom. And this is what a rigger does. A rigger puts the joints in positions. These are all joints, even though they kind of look like bones. So for instance, this knee, you can see we have the round part here of the knee. That's where the joint actually is. And then this triangle is connecting it to the next joint. Now when I'm looking at the joints, you can move and rotate and do things with them, but that's when the rigger decides how you're going to actually move it. So instead of having to go in and grab the actual joint, I think these are locked, so it won't let me move it, you grab the controller instead, and that is how we move it. But the parent for this entire rig, you can see if we kind of click around, I've just clicked the elbow and it selects all the joints below it, or all of the children. Okay? Now, when we're just looking at a joint chain, there is no inverse kinematics. So I have to grab the hip. The hip is always going to be the parent of the toe, but when I use the controllers for inverse kinematics, remember then the child controls the parent. Okay? We've got our hip joint. Let me see if I can actually get in here. Our spine, and again, I'm just looking over here to see. And eventually, they're all overlapping here. You can see a lot to control, right? And that's, again, why controllers are actually made, so that you can select the whole rig. Okay? So I just wanted you to be aware of kind of what's hiding under here. And what a rigger does is set this up, and again, set up the controllers, and actually it's called skinning, but you attach these bones to the mesh so that we don't have to even look at the bones. We just get to see the mesh and the controllers to actually animate. Okay, so I have two little articles here about forward versus inverse kinematics. If you do want to get in the field of animation or 3D character creation, rigging, stuff like that, these are vocabulary words that you're going to want to know. Always let me know if you have any questions. I'm reposting some references here from when we looked at the walk cycle below. I called this walk cycle 2, so you kind of know this is repeated reference, but it's really important. And you guys did well kind of with the 4 key frames. Some things needed to be improved upon, and now you get that chance. Again, we're always going to want to look at reference, especially when it comes to our character, because you get to pick your own. And as I mentioned before, we're going to follow the same 4 key poses, but this time, you know, we kind of did it from the side before. You're going to also want to look from the front, because it's an interesting thing to think about. How does our body move from the front if our arms and legs are both moving and swinging? So let's see what I'm talking about. Here we go, front view. So, I mean, this is kind of the back, but the main point we're getting is how the hips are leveled as you walk and how your shoulders are going to bend. Your weight is going to shift from side to side. Now, it's not going to always be super dramatic, but you can see we're going together and apart, right? We're going to make greater than and less than signs, kind of that contrapposto positioning, right? So we want to pay attention to our belt line, the hip line, the shoulder line, our head line. It's all the same stuff that we were looking at last time, where the hips and now our head need to go up and down, obviously down on the down pose, and then up on the up pose. We still have contact down, passing up, contact down, passing up. Now this, I wouldn't use this reference for your key poses. Notice this has contact down, passing, contact down, passing up. I think they kind of group them together. A great thing I would do is look at reference and again, walk around. See, we have it kind of level. They cross it. Can really add some character movement when it comes to your character walk, tipping the head in opposition of the shoulders, the hips, all of that. So this week you're going to create 2 walk cycles. You're going to start with a full body human walk. You're going to use Moom for this again, so the same guy that we used last time. This will be due Thursday. Then you will create a character walk due Sunday. With your character walk, you're going to need to write a description of what the character is. I need you to determine what the character is before you start animating it. It does not go in the reverse way, okay? Think about what's going to be different from a normal walk to a character walk. Do not, and I repeat, do not use your normal walk and then change it for a character walk. It is more work, and we will be able to tell. Make sure you're using a new file. Start with Moom, again, just a blank Moom, and do your character walk. For each assignment, you will submit a Maya file and a play blast. Okay? You will need 4 forward-moving steps for each walk, the human walk and the character walk. Think about your 4 key poses. So that means you should have 16 key poses or red lines on your timeline. Okay? Human walk due Thursday, Maya file and play blast. Character walk due Sunday, Maya file, character description and comments, and play blast. I listed, I listed both assignments as separate ones, just so you can submit and I can put in different due dates, but I put what the assignment is in both. All right, let's take a look at Moom. All right, so I have him however we positioned from before. Now, I personally like to start by making my key poses from the side because I'm going to use this kind of reference here, and it is from the side. And then we can look from the front to check some other things. Obviously, you're going to need to rotate. If you want, you can put a ground plane. I'm going to use the grid as a ground plane. Sometimes it's easier when you can have some depth. So if wanted, you can create a cube, scale it, W for move, and you can move it and have that be your ground plane. Again, whatever you want. So to start with, I would relax Moom's hand. It's just something that you can notice right away, and it doesn't take a lot to kind of edit. Just a little. You can see what kind of relaxing you want. Again, have fun in these kind of in the channel box. I'm clicking these little like knuckles things to get to it, and then we've got all of that in there. So I'm going to do that with both hands. I'm not going to make them the same because, you know, we're organic. We're not, our hands aren't going to match, right? And then I'm going to kind of bring the arms down, get Moom kind of in a relaxed state to begin. Okay, then I might decide, all right, well, what foot am I going to start with? I'm going to move that forward, move the other one back, just so I know. Okay, now we're ready to go. So contact, same exact thing as before. Front foot is up, we're on the ball of the back foot. So front foot, we've got our ball to toe, front foot is up. And again, I'm clicking on the words and then middle mouse clicking and dragging in the viewport. Get the heel up a little bit, and then I'm going to add some to the ball. Now I can see I'm going to need to bring this back, this forward. Again, I can break the rig, and we want to try to avoid doing that. And then you can kind of say like, okay, well, I want my hips. How should they be positioned? Where are we moving? And again, we can look at our reference. I would still give a slight bend to that front leg. So see, when I move this down, it almost kind of pops out anyway. That's what we want to avoid that popping that's going to happen later on. Now, your arms are always going to go opposite your leg. So I have my right leg forward, so I know automatically that my left arm is going to be forward. So even before I do any type of actually posing, sometimes I like to just lay it out so that I know, okay, I've got the arms opposite the leg. Now if we look here, our back arm has a slight bend to it, and our hand is kind of back. Now, the down pose, I repeat, the down pose is where your arms are going to be furthest out. So don't set them up in the contact to be the furthest out, because they're going to go the furthest out in the down. So you might look at this and be like, wow, Jen, calm it down a little bit. Okay, so but then we said, all right, a little bit of a bend, and we don't want to break his arm. So when I go into the elbow, we don't want to just bend it the wrong way. We're bending it the right way. And then when I do that, you might be like, well, I can bring my arm back now that it's bent a little. And then my wrist is kind of back. Now you can decide if you want the hand to be sideways, if you want it to be forward, whatever you want. Now, as we're doing this, make sure you're looking kind of in a front view as well. I know we talked about positioning and all of that, but you're going to want to make sure. Okay, now our front arm. We look at our reference, slight bend, hands kind of limp. All right, so slight bend. This isn't the down pose, so I probably want to relax it just a little bit. Hand is kind of limp. Okay. Looking good so far. Now, contact, we're kind of even. I mean, back-wise, there's a little lean to it. I'm going to recommend that you touch kind of every controller that's here. Give it a little bit of life. Once you have this set up to your liking, you're going to want to click and drag over everything, hit S. Some people find that they click just this main controller down here. If I can actually click on it. Come on. There we go. That grabs everything. You can hit S there as well. The main thing to tell is move off the key and move back. Okay? You can follow the same timing that you did before if you thought it worked well. Take a look at my notes. But now we're going to move into the down. All right, so I know automatically in the down pose, I need to bend my legs. I talked about the arms being the furthest out at the down. So I'm going to bring it back. And I'm going to bring this one forward. You can key all of these individually as you're working. That works too, whatever you like to do. I personally like to get the whole thing set up, then key it all. You just don't want to forget either way. Backhand is kind of up a little bit more. Front hand is up a little bit more. So we can give a little bit this way. And our hands, because they're the children, they're going to be the last things to kind of move. So, you know, swing your arms. It's shoulder, elbow, wrist. So your fingers kind of flick at the end. That's that overlapping action that we talked about earlier. All right, so then we're on our back toe. Our front foot is flat. Don't forget, no sliding feet. This foot is planted. It cannot go anywhere. I'm going to remove the ball and get even more on the toe. Now this looks a little funky, right? My character isn't really over my foot. There we go. So adding a little bit more movement forward. Back fairly straight. Our head's going to be down a little bit more just because of the positioning. But again, give a little bit of movement in all areas. And you'll see as you go along what you think works best. Okay? Click and drag, select it all. S to set a key. Again, however you want to set a key. And then we go back and forth. Check what's moving. Not really seeing any movement in the back here. Maybe I didn't key any. Who knows? Check it out. I just go back and forth and kind of look at each rig point. Okay, now one thing I didn't do, check out how we're looking from the front. Looks pretty good. You don't want the arms to go through the body as they go back, so you need to make sure that they come out and around. You also want to make sure our knees are facing forward, but great. Now we're going to go to our passing. Now this front foot, I have all my weight in it, so we cannot move it, right? So I'm actually going to put the body up and over it, because remember, we're over. And this back leg is going to make kind of a figure 4. And we do that with the foot. Again, thinking about silhouettes, not getting too much overlapping. Now, his body is a little challenging to work with in that sense, but okay. The arms are going to come forward. Now, something that's a little confusing here is when we're in the passing, people want to make it all a straight line. And it kind of looks like it in this image, but you don't want to do that. Distinctively show that one arm is back and one arm is forward. When you do this and have them all overlap, we as a viewer keep seeing the same arm going forward each time, even if you're switching. So just check that silhouette. to see, you know, okay, I've got that arm is definitely still forward. This arm is definitely still back. Let's look at our hands. They're kind of a little bit more flat. Oops. Our back's doing some funky stuff here. Straighten it out. Okay. And let's see what you think. So select it all, hit S. I select the bottom just to be safe. Contact down, passing. Now, from the down to the passing, look at our hip and head. There's not a big movement upward. So I would try to look at this, grab our main controller, and I'm going to move that up. I don't want to break the rig, so I'm just going to add a little bit more up. And maybe I look in the down and do that a little bit more down, because we want to see the transition from the two. Now on this middle controller, I see that's moving, but I don't like that, so I have just that selected and I can delete. And I'm going to bump it up just a little. Give it some life. Okay. Now his booty is popped back, and I don't think I want quite that. So we want to straighten up a bit. Okay. And you can look at a direct front view. You can look at a direct side view, whatever you want. I would recommend looking at all of them, but seeing what you think. Looking good so far. My side view for some reason is in wireframe. You can hit 5. So 4 is wireframe, 5 is shaded. Okay. And now we're going to go to my up pose. And I think I'm still going to adjust the back. That's a little bit too much arc in the back for me. But up. So this flat foot doesn't move. We're just going to the ball. And obviously in this up, we're going to get the highest up from the passing. But, whoa. Okay. I'm going to grab this outer purple controller because that grabs the whole body. I'm going to bring this foot forward. Oh no, look at his leg, it's so weird. It's because we haven't grabbed the knee controllers, so you need to make sure those are in front. You don't really need to key them necessarily. Oh man, I almost broke it. You don't need to key them necessarily, just push them in front, and you'll see how far your steps go. And we want our foot to kind of dangle down in the front. Little dangle. Now look, he's too far back. We need to lean forward. It's going to look more realistic. Now we need to make sure, because we've got this foot coming forward, the opposite arm needs to be forward. And see how my hand is starting to go back down again. So I look, this is my front foot. So now the opposite arm needs to come forward. Looks kind of like a puppy dog right now. Not a huge bend in the elbow. Other arm, back, not a huge bend. Back. Check that front or back view because see how it's starting to get a little angled. Down. I'm going to bring this one out a little bit. All right. And then I'm going to select everything, hit S. You can click and drag on this, hit S to double check. Oh, we got some freak out in here. That happens. So make sure that you have saved and you're incrementing your saves. So let's take a look. Down, passing, and up. So I think part of the issue is my knee controllers. So I'm going to move those out of the way to start with. Because I set keys on it before, I'm just going to set them now. Looks like this foot for some reason is very delayed. So when you run into issues like this, I'm going to delete the keys on the foot. It's a little bit of a pain to have to redo it, but better to redo it. Now I don't have that issue. And I'm going to save scene as just in case something happens. Desktop. Okay. All right. So what I want to check now is, do my hands go through the body? So we could do a direct front view. And just look at the hands. Look at those big thumbs that this character has. Cool? No issue. What it would look like, just so you can see, is if I did something like this. Boop. Just completely going through his body. So we do not want that. You want to avoid that. And then I can go into my perspective here. Take a look at this first step. Contact down, passing up. So on my up, okay, hands are looking good. I'm going to give a little bit, and I want to bring this arm further back. Select it all. Key. I realize I was off, but that's okay. Just make sure you're keying in the same frame. So contact down, passing up. I'm one of 4 steps in, so then I would just go to my next contact pose. And it's the same exact thing as the first one. Now we have our front foot. We're going to go onto the heel. Now I'm going to move this forward. So with Moom, you have to kind of pay attention to how tall he is and how far you think a step would be. So sometimes, maybe I haven't really keyed everything, but I can set this and then just look at how far I think that foot is going and if that makes sense. I need to decrease the amount of, bring this up a little bit. Granted, I know we don't necessarily pick our feet up that high, but that looks good to me. So now I can do the rest of the body the way I see fit. Move this onto the ball. Give a slight bend to both knees. Don't forget the down is where the arms are furthest out, but I definitely want to bring this up. Give more bend. Bring my hand forward a little bit. The opposite for the one in the back. Okay. Give a little movement in our back and in our head. And don't forget, you want to act this out, so see what works for you. Where do you tip your head? When does your head go up or down? All right, so I'll look at a side view here. Contact down, passing up, contact. So I see one issue. My foot isn't actually on the ground. And I might want to bring the whole body down just a little bit. All right, set the key. Getting some mega arc in here. So I'm going to tone this down just a little bit. Okay, so you'll go back and forth. Once I get the 4 steps in, that's when I'll really look at the head and see where I can add some bounce. And that's where I'll look at a front view and start to give the tilt. So if my right leg is coming forward, let's see what leg I've got. Let me go into perspective. Yep, I've got a right leg forward, so my right shoulder is going to go down. So when I have this kind of in my contact, what I can do is grab the shoulder and add a little bit, oh, not the arm, add a little bit of a tip. Same thing with the hips, add a little bit of a rotation this way. Okay, and then set that. So now I'm seeing, and I'm trying to look at this kind of movement. It's not going to be extreme. These are small, small movements, but once you've got the main keyframes in, you can really add to it. Okay, so the last things to kind of check, once you have your 4 steps, your 16 frames, do I have any sliding feet? If so, fix it. We do not want sliding feet. Do I have that wave of the hips and head going up and down? Do I have any popping knees? And is my body leaning forward? Like, walking is kind of tripping and catching yourself. So make sure you've got a little bit of a lean. You never want him to be perfectly straight up, right? You can even exaggerate it. Remember, I always say exaggerate, and you're like, oh, that's way too far. Pull it back. But this will also help you with your character walk, okay? Your legs and arms are always opposite. The down keyframe, the down position, is where the arms are out the furthest. Okay, think of your arcs. Think of the bounce in the walk. I know this is a lot to think about, but maybe animate yours and then watch this part of the video again. Okay, so then you're going to do a play blast. Don't forget, right mouse click on your timeline, option box next to play blast. You can set it up. You'll submit your Maya file and your play blast. The normal human walk, do Thursday. Then open up a new file, get some reference, think about what type of character you want to do. Maybe someone's having the best day ever and their chest is proud and their head is up and they're really swinging their arms and tipping their head from side to side. You can think about the timing in the keyframes. How long would that take if you were happy versus sad? And really give us some nice emotion in there, right? If I'm sad, if I'm happy, we'll do happy again. Really get that chest up, exaggerate it. This character walk is your chance to really have fun with it. Maybe we're getting a little like Jessica Rabbit in here with the hips really turned and the body and chest puffed. And you can move the eyes so it's not quite as creepy. Okay, but you can have a lot of fun with this. Just make sure you don't have limbs cutting through other parts of the body. All right, so have fun with it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing your walks.